Hi everyone! If you don't know me, my name is Morgan Malcolm and this is my channel, Love Where You Live, where we talk about everything relating to real estate, including buying, selling, investing, DIYs, and just anything related to loving where you live. So today's video is going to be about hanging things in your house. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start with our floating shelves, and these are going to require anchors. So we're going to use an anchor because these are going to have something heavy sitting on them. And if it goes into drywall, it has a tendency to pull out. So you need an anchor to prevent that. So these go up to 75 pounds. This one goes up to 50 pounds. There's also sets that you can get, but those usually have smaller weight limits on them. So just check and see that it's going to work for you. An anchor is what goes into the wall, so you can see it on the right side, and the screw is on the left side, and it goes into the anchor, and it helps preventing it pull out from the wall. So you can see here the 2x4 wood is going to be the studs, and if you get into one of those, you don't need an anchor, but anything in between that would require one because it's only going into that drywall. This is the back of the shelf, so you can see it's an Ikea shelf. Those two holes right there are what is hard to see, so that's where we're going to put our screws into, and you're going to want to check the screw to make sure it fits in there. So before you even put it in the wall, make sure those screws will fit in. You're going to need a level and the tape. So the trick with these, since you can't see those holes, you're going to need tape. So you tape from both ends, and you're going to mark where the holes are going to be. I like to go all the way to the end because this shelf is going to go up against the wall, and I want to make sure it can go up against the wall and not have the hole be too close or too far away. So this way I mark it on the wall, make sure it's level, and then just tape that up there, and I already had my holes marked. I prefer to screw in just the screws into the holes. You can drill it if you'd like to pre-drill it. If you do use the screws, you can definitely tell if you're going into a stud, it's much harder to get the screw in. You can feel more resistance. And in that case, you don't need an anchor. But for any of the screws, if it goes all the way in and it feels like it's just twisting, that is going to need an anchor because it's just going into drywall. So the one on the left needs an anchor, so I'm going to put that in right now. And you can see that from this angle. So you just screw in that anchor, it pulls in, and then you put the screw inside the middle of it, and that's all set. The other side just needs the screw because it is going into a stud. And you want to leave the screws out a bit so it has something to catch onto the shelf. And those are ready for us to put those on. So you do the big hole at the bottom, and then it slides up to the top and holds it in place. So it's a little tricky to get those in, but you can feel it when you do, and then you just kind of bang it down to get it on there. And now everything should be up and level. So that's a floating shelf. Now we're going to move on to hanging a picture collage. So you can see there's a bunch of different pictures, all different sizes here, and we want them to all be lined up. So starting with each individual picture, you're going to want to make a template for it. I just go to the dollar store and get cardboard or the poster board, and you cut out the template, make sure to poke the holes on where those need to go, and then you can just hang them on the wall, and you can definitely see where they are, how they're spaced, and make sure it's lined up exactly how you want it before you put up the actual pictures. This will save you a lot of time and frustration on getting holes lined up, and if you have to repair or move anything, it's much easier to do just the paper than the actual pictures. All right, up next we have hanging a light, so one that's not hardwired. You're going to want to find the outlet. It's going to be the one that's upside down. That'll be on the switch for the light. So you're going to use this hook like this, and that hardware came with this light, but they sell these at Home Depot too. So you're going to take the hook first, and you're going to pick where you want that to be. So I'm just lining up this to where we want this light to hang. And you just push it in and start twisting, and twist and twist and twist until it's all the way up. So once you get that all the way in, you take your light, so you can see it here. This has that same hardware piece, and you're going to want to hang it so the cord goes towards where that outlet is. So when you're hanging these, keep in mind how far that outlet is because you're going to have to plug it in. So if the cord's not long enough, you're going to want to make it closer to that wall. And here I'm just hanging that up, and then the cord's going to go away from the light towards this wall. And now to install it, we're going to use a special staple gun. It has a space for the cord to go in, and it uses special staples so that you don't crimp the cord or cut it when you're stapling it up there. So they're called insulated staples. And this is just an example of them. You can get them online or at Home Depot. They're pretty inexpensive. They're also great for Christmas lights, so keep in mind you may use it more than once. So what you do is you just line it up. I like to start at where the light is hanging from, so that cord gets nice and tight and straight from there. And you just pull the cord straight up to the wall, line up the cord in that little groove spot, and you just staple it on. And you work your way around. Make sure as you're doing it that it's straight. It bothers me when things get crooked, so I can redo it a few times. I didn't have to on this one, but I like to do 2 in the corner, so 1 at the ceiling and 1 on the wall there, and just anywhere you think that the cord would need to be stapled on so that it doesn't sag. This is what those staples look like, so it just goes around the cord and it doesn't hurt it or damage it in any way. And then that light is hung. So all you have to do at this point is plug it in and your light is now on the switch and the cord is all out of the way. Moving on to a rod from Ikea. This is for my son's room. So we're going to use that tape trick again. So this also has a tricky type of setup. So it's multiple pieces. So if you use the tape, just measure out where that needs to be. And then you're going to mark where the holes need to be. So a big trick for this is making sure where you line up the tape is level so that when you're leveling it onto the wall, it's going to be straight. You don't want it to be crooked as you're putting it on to the whatever you're marking your holes to be. So now that those are hung or marked, you can take that tape, and it's great to see where it's going to be so you can put it on the wall and step back and make sure it's the height you want it to be at. Level it as you're putting the tape on the wall. And this will help make sure that whatever you're installing comes out level every time. So now again, we are just going to drill those 2 holes, and I like to drill first. I believe for this I don't need any anchors, but if you do feel you need anchors, if it's heavy that you're going to be putting something on, or it feels like it goes just into drywall, you saw the anchors from before, so you just use those again. So this one I am taking back out just because of how you install this. So the pieces all come apart. So the first thing you do is this little metal piece, and the screw goes into that. And unfortunately my drill does not fit all the way in. So I'm going to manually screw it in. So you just screw it all the way in. And for this one you make sure that that hole that you saw in that metal thing faces down, because that connects to the other pieces. So we're just going to keep drilling or screwing that in. Then you install this other piece, and there's this bottom little screw that goes up, and it holds this bar in place. Now, I got this from Ikea again. It's an awesome little thing for kids with their colored pencils and crayons and storage. So you'll see at the end it holds all of those in little bins, and you can take them off if they're, playing in other places. So here's all those bins and the hooks. Now that's installed. Let's see what's next. So we're going to use some of these hooks. So they're called monkey hooks, are the ones that I was using. I think there's different brands. But they're really awesome if you are just hanging a single picture, and you don't want to make a big hole. All you have to do is you put it in the wall, and then you can see where the hook goes into whatever you're hanging right there. And it just holds on the wall. It doesn't require any anchors or anything like that. All you do is you just kind of wiggle it in, you poke a hole and push it all the way in until it's just the hook remaining out, and then you just install it. So this is what it looks like. You can see on the right side is in the wall, and then you just hook on whatever it is, and you don't need an anchor, and it makes a tiny, tiny little hole. So it's really easy if you're renting or something like that. And then just level it and you're good. So this is a calendar I made. It's a pane of glass. So it's the same as if you were to hang a mirror. So we're using mirror hooks and hardware to install this. Basically, I pick what height I want it to be at, and I install one of those hardware hook things for it, and then you can put either the glass or the mirror on it, and it helps hold it in place. So from there, you're going to want to tighten it down. This is what that looks like. So it just sits in there, and it holds that piece of glass up. You want to level this here, and then you can start putting in, there's going to be 4 of them. So you put in the other pieces here, And you're just going to drill that in. This is not a heavy piece of glass, so I didn't need any anchors or anything for it. If you're doing a big mirror or a big piece of glass, you may want to put anchors in those, and they do usually come with them in that kit. So you can see I'm going to step back and just adjust where those are so it's in the middle of the wall, and then put on the last piece. So really easy to install. It's really not bad. And there you go. This is my calendar. All right, I hope that gave some good tips and tricks on hanging different things in your house. I always struggled the most with those floating shelves. I love the look of them, but they were a nightmare to put up because you can't see where the screws go. So that tape trick is really amazing for those and works out great every time. So thanks for watching. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you hit subscribe and click that notification bell so you know when I upload any new videos. Please hit the thumbs up if you like the video, and make sure you're following me on my other social media, which will all be listed below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.